Hey guys, I just wanted to do another Arrow recap video for WDC shows of the past week. I've been able to do it because, like I said in my gifted review, I had a lot going on, and basically, and I wasn't able to. So I just, like I said before, and like I did in my last video, I should say, I put amps in the description box below, so you can jump around if you only want to watch certain shows and have me reviewed in a certain order. That's this is up to you. Basically, so the order I'm going in is the order that it aired: Supergirl, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and then Arrow. It's late. It's gonna be try to be as brief with each of these as possible. But again, like I said, you can jump around, and I'll try to give you as many of my thoughts on it as I can and cover as many events that happened in that episode as I can. So for Supergirl, this is season 3, episode 3, Far from the Tree. If you remember from the end of the previous episode, McGon contacted John Jones telepathically, saying that he needs to come to Mars. And basically, Alex and Maggie are about to have their bridal shower, and basically, Kara's about to host the bridal shower at her apartment, but John comes to the apartment, telling them what's going on, and Kara agrees that he's not going to go alone, that she's going to go with him, and Alex understands. So, and they have this nice parallel, and first of all, they have the means of travel. It first looks like some old convertible from I don't know, at maybe the 1940s or 50s, and at first Kara's just confused as how are we gonna get to Mars in this, and it's well, my race can shapeshift, why can't our technology? And then it shapeshifts into the spaceship where it takes them, that jets them all the way to Mars. And meanwhile, Alex convinces Maggie to invite her estranged father or parents to their bridal shower. Maggie's reluctant because of the fact that I guess Alex's mom's the one that brings it up, and she mentioned this before in season 2. Maggie's parents, disowned her and kicked her out of the house when, they found out that she was gay. But then Alex keeps convincing Maggie, why didn't you just call him up? It's been years, times have changed. Maybe give him another shot. Maggie reluctantly agrees, and her dad is actually played by Carlos Bernard, who is also Tony Almeida from 24, and he did a really good job in this. But the only thing that I couldn't put my finger on is you can tell he was trying to almost have an accent, almost, but it was almost like he was playing it as he was trying to hide an accent, even though we know Carlos Bernard doesn't actually have a Hispanic accent. So I just thought it was kind of weird that they were trying to make him sound old and out of touch with the times and illustrate a generational gap. But it's there's already, we already know that Carlos Bernard's the dad. They already speak Spanish to one another. But it's just it just feel kind of redundant. I don't know why they need to. It was something that kind of on the nose. I have no idea why they needed to do that. But anyway, he makes an effort, saying that, I looked at all your old cases, and he brings a picture of Maggie as a child in his wallet to put on this bridal shower collage, and tries to be open up again. But as soon as he sees Alex kissing Maggie, he just storms out, and then she Maggie confronts the dad about it, and then he was talking about how when he had to come as an immigrant and went over the respect of his peers who were like racist towards him, and he says that they'll never they're gonna it's like if they're gonna be the times aren't changed, they're not gonna accept me as a Hispanic, they're gonna be even less accepting as you as a homosexual. But it was just kind of clear that the whole conversation was just that basically the reason why Maggie's parents disowned them is because it's like they were afraid how her being gay was gonna reflect on them, and it was just like, and then they had this like really on the nose dialogue about how it's like, oh, they're building a wall to keep out Mexicans and say how we're rapists and murderers, and which it felt very forced because it's like we know this is in a world where Donald Trump's not president and the president's like an alien, so she would be accepting of anybody of different origins, whether it's extraterrestrial or ethnic origins, so or just sexual orientation, all that other stuff. So it just seems like it's kind of out of place in a way. I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but I feel like the whole backstory about how being an immigrant, and all of the prejudice he had to go through was enough to like drive that point home. But eventually, Maggie confronts her dad and just gives him back the picture from his wallet, saying that, you know what, I'm no longer that scared little girl that needs your approval, that I have people who love me and accept me for who I am, and I've been able to manage on my own, and it's basically, I guess their relationship is officially dead in the water once again. It was a nice parallel because when Kara and John goes to Mars to meet up with Magan and another like rebel group of white Martians, including this one hot-headed leader who reveals to John that he's not the last Green Martian. His father, Mirren, who also survived, and basically the white Martians are trying to keep him alive. Just because he's a religious figure on that planet, and also because he has access to a staff that would basically help the evil white Martians overtake the rebellion and basically turn the tide on the war on Mars. Johns is in shock about the whole thing, and both that the staff exists because they figured it was just like, I guess it was basically Mars' equivalent of something like the Holy Grail, and that his dad's alive. He tries to communicate with John. Tries to talk to his dad. It was also played by Carl Lumbly, who you know from Alias, and also the voice of Martian Manhunter in Justice League Unlimited. So it was nice to have that little crossover of sorts. But Mirren's been tortured for so many years by 200 years, they said, by evil white Martians that he thinks that it's just another white Martian trying to pose as his son and manipulate him into revealing the location of the staff. He doesn't know how to get through, and he doesn't know how to get. John doesn't know how to get through to him, especially since Moran says like, "Oh, my son would never leave Mars. That he would be a coward for doing that." And because like one of the rebel white Martian leaders becomes like so hot-headed and wants to just like, I guess, find a way to just torture the information out of him, that it causes like inner conflict in the group, in which Kara and John has to flee with Mirren. They go back to John's old hut, and Kara is able to get through to him and replay a memory of both John and Mirren with the former's daughters. And it was really, and even though it was like, CGI was good enough for a TV show. I mean, the way it was like, it was really touching scene and very well played out. And Carl Lumbly and David Harewood has some like really good chemistry, and it's a beautifully acted scene. And I kind of like the joke about which Kara just drives in with the quote unquote John's car, blasting Britney Spears and making a joke about making a Bugs Bunny reference to as distractions while the both white Martian groups fight among themselves. And Carr is able to use the staff to just basically vaporize all the evil white Martians, which surprisingly isn't commented upon, even though I figured, people from the Superman family were like reluctant to play, or reluctant to kill or play judge and jury. But then again, the same thing happened with the Daxamite invasion, which, a few of them actually got killed, or at least Monel's mom got killed. But, I figured I thought that should have been brought more attention to that. And so, Magan agrees to stay on Mars, is going to stay on Mars just to continue fighting the war, but Mirren does go back to Earth with Kara and John. And I just thought it was like a really, good episode. Wasn't too much like, relationship drama. I like the parallels they did, and I felt this was the strongest episode of the season. I hope this show like continues the momentum that it's going in, hopefully. Now, for The Flash, Season 4, Episode 3, Luck Be a Lady, it starts with this flashback to 3 weeks ago, to around the time Barry was released from the Speed Force. The Thinker is monitoring this woman played by this actress called Sugar Lynn Beard, who she was in Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, which was a comedy from last summer, and it was really funny if you haven't seen it, by the way. She plays Becky Sharp, who's basically just down on her luck, and this is basically, life has dealt her like one bad hand after the other, and that's not meant to be a pun considering she works as a blackjack dealer. Having coffee with milk in it, she's lactose intolerant, her boyfriend cheating on her, losing her job because she accidentally spilled her drink on a guy that was basically sexually harassing her. Her car getting the boot, so to speak, on the wheel, like to the point where it's like there's even a flashback where she's like boarding. She finally, like, after getting laid off from her job, she's like boarding a bus, I guess, like somewhere, and it turns out there's other people on it, including Ramsey Deacon, or Kilgore from episode 2, who is also on the bus, and there's this huge flash of light. They hear about this huge flash of light, and of course she plays a comic book character named Hazard, who has the ability to manipulate probability, but it's explained later on that she has some like quantum field in which she's able to generate good luck from herself, but it comes at the expense of also creating bad luck around everybody and everything else around her. Even to the point where it's like the Flash is she's able to, like, the security is like bumbling around. She's able to like walk, she has an Uber driver take her to a bank where it's like something wrong with this phone, so she can't charge it for the fare. She goes in and like walks into a bank vault that happens to be open, and then robs the place, and then it's like nonchalantly, and like the Flash is trying to catch her from getting away in the Prius, but then it's like there's the guys that happen to have these like barrel of marbles that fall, and that causes him to trip and fall, even much to his shock, and even points out it feels like he was in a cartoon. But you also have the other development of Harry showing up from Earth 2, and Wally was expecting to have a date with Jesse, but he just shows up with a breakup box saying that because Jesse's been focused on, protecting Earth 2, and Wally was focused on, helping out Team Flash while Barry was still trapped in the Speed Force, being on just different Earths at all, that she decided that that maybe the relationship was going to work out, and she needed time to, like reflect and and also which naturally hits Wally pretty hard, and then of course with Harry, based on using tech that was left in Flash's suit from last episode and trying to scan for like dark matter energy. They all realized, and Barry remembers that that the portal in which he came out of the Speed Force that spilled like dark matter energy onto the bus that was driving in his path. And we later found out there were like 12 people on that bus, and like they all became metahumans, and this was all part of the Thinker's plan, was to create a busload that he was basically manipulating the whole team into freeing the Flash and creating all these metahumans to some unknown end, and which Harry later starts to piece together after, by the end of the episode, Wally decides that after going to talk to Jesse on Earth 2, that he decides to leave, and he just doesn't really feel like he needs to go figure himself out and figure out where his place is, and so he just says he takes off to Blue Valley to, stay at a friend's place, which is sad because I feel like they haven't really known what to do with Wally, especially since Barry's return. And as much as I hated season 3, I mean, it felt like they did a better job of handling the character, but now it just feels like they just ran out of ideas of what to do. But it even gets to the point where they feel like, I like the role reversal in which you always feel like, I know people complain about like everybody on Team Flash has to give Barry a pep talk in order to get the job done, that it was Barry who had to get everybody else pep talks because they felt like, because there's this new meta that causes bad luck, that she was somehow responsible for all the bad luck, from Cecile and Joe having to deal with the fact that the West home was falling apart, to the fact they created metahumans, to Iris being freaking out because they haven't been able to book a church to host the wedding, to the point where Iris gets so desperate to the point where she convinces Barry to try to get married in a church, but like right after like piggyback, but she doesn't even book it. She basically piggybacked off a funeral. At least it's a comedic scene where it's like, she's rushing to get married, and he turns the guy's photo around, and the little boy put cinnamon in the incest, so he has an allergic reaction. I was just saying, it's fine, Father, just walk it off. And it's a very funny scene, but it just seems like I can understand how this is something that's going to further put Iris in a more negative light that she's already been getting since the season started. And like I said, it's a very funny scene. I was laughing, but I also felt like it was a little bit like, I don't know, something I would see in like King of Queens or something. But it was funny regardless. It was also funny when, they had this dramatic scene where, even though I could tell where Barry and Cisco were, turns out they were and it was like slow motion orchestral music. They're actually playing like laser tag at the beginning of the episode, and I guess the biggest and Barry tries to go reason with Becky Sharp Hazard, but because like she's been so down on her luck, she just feels like, this is the universe like correcting their mistakes and finally giving her some good luck for a change, and maybe the people around her deserve the bad luck. So even gets to the point where she goes back to the casino and playing the craps tables, and her quantum field like keeps expanding to the point where a goose flies into a plane engine, and it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek reference to the Captain Sully plane crash in New York, even to the point where they have like a Captain Sully lookalike on helping fly the plane, and even to the point where it's like the house is collapsing on Cecile when she's trying to fix it, and Joe is trying to get her out of there, to the point where it's like her quantum field expanding to the point where it reactivates the particle accelerator, and Harry and Cisco can't shut it down. And Barry goes to try to bring the cops and arrest Hazard, but then it's like he slips on some coin, cuffs himself, and then a sign falls on top of him. And then it's just basically just nonstop chaos until Harry just decides that, just let the accelerator go off. And the irony is that the blast ends up temporarily nullifying her powers and causing all this chaos around her to stop. So Barry's able to free himself and basically put the cuffs on her and nullify her powers further and take her into custody. And Harry decides, because of the fact that he's had a falling out with Jessie after he helped assemble her own support team, like Team Flash and Team Arrow, but they basically voted him off the team, and he doesn't feel like he can go back to Earth 2 because of the fact that he doesn't really have anybody besides Jessie, and now he doesn't even have that. So that's how he ends up staying on the team, and also how he ends up piecing together how he feels like, Wally leaving, the Samuroid forcing Barry out of the Speed Force, and the metahumans that they're all being manipulated by somebody, Puppet Master, who's really pulling the strings. They don't know it's Clifford DeVoe, the Thinker, but his assistant, the mechanic, realizes that, okay, they're catching on to our plans, but it just ends with, that may be smart. She says, oh, maybe they're smarter than you give them credit for, and he responds, I'm smarter. And apparently the Samuroid head is still active from the season premiere, and he's basically using it as a camera to spy on them. So this is pretty cool. I mean, I kind of want to see where I know people complain it's they're tired of the whole villains of the week thing, but given that next week's episode is going to feature Elongated Man, who's supposed to be at least an anti-hero, and then we're also going to have I guess the next episode after that is going to be Amulet Black, who was somebody who Caleb was working for between seasons 3 and 4, that hopefully that they won't then hopefully maybe by the mid-season finale is my prediction, that we'll figure out what Thinker's motives are, and maybe we don't have to wait so long to figure out. At least we're going to know his motives by the mid-season finale, and maybe by January. I know it'd be a drag, but probably January, he'll probably figure out what all the 12 metas are, and it won't be a season-long thing. Now, for Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 3, Zari. I was glad that we finally got this episode where we got to introduce the Zari Tomez, supposed to be known as Isis in the comics, but of course they don't refer to her as that because of the fact that she is... because of the name is now affiliated with a terrorist group. But this episode was kind of a mixed bag. Was kind of a bit of a mixed bag. In some ways it was lackluster, in other ways it wasn't. I guess the fact that it's just I don't know. We went to she's from dark future, Seattle 2042, in which apparently there was some anti-metahuman act passed in 2021, which, I guess all metahumans were outlawed, and they were all being locked up and experimented on by Argus, who basically became this fascist organization and created this police state. And I guess Mollis sends Kawasa to try to kill Zari, because he found out, because for reasons that we don't quite know, Gary is originally following her because the Time Bureau got alert of a rogue time traveler, and but because the Legends were able to get because Mick was able to steal some of Rip's tech about the Time Bureau, they were also able to find out about her as well. And it's like they try to help her, but she's reluctant to have any help because she's just trying to meet up with her family because apparently her brother is dead, and she's trying to meet up with her parents. And they mentioned how she's Muslim and how like religion is outlawed. So she's basically become this person on the run who has a whole rap sheet because of her fighting against Argus. And they said, and basically I guess she only agrees to work with the legends and like lure out her assassin Kawasa as long as they help her break her brother out of an Argus facility. Jax decides to they sneak in. Jax decides to open up all the cell blocks to let all the prisoners out after seeing how they're being experimented on. And then you found out that Zarya was just using them, and that she was not really after her brother. Like, she was after a totem that belonged to her brother. And it turns out it's a totem. It's like one of the. I mean, you've ever watched like Vixen season 2? It's on CWC. Like, each season's like a half an hour. You'll get caught up pretty quickly. They're totems that represent like a different elements. Apparently with Amaya and Mari sharing the animal totem. Kawasa has like the water totem in season 2, except but for some reason that she's able to she doesn't even have the water totem anymore. She's able to just turn into morph and turn into water on her own. But she was killed by some guy who had the fire totem, which is why she's able to come back. Why she had to be resurrected. But essentially, she had to. So basically, Zarya is the one in possession of the wind totem, which belonged to her brother, and it's because of what Jax saw in the prison that he convinces Sarah not to basically let the Time Master intervene and turn Zarya over to the Time Bureau. I mean, just because of the fact that they're just going to turn her back over to Argus to be experimented on or just held captive somewhere. So it ends up whereas like the Time Bureau's time ship and the Wave Rider are about to collide in like this game of chicken, in which Agent Sharp and Gary are able to finally back off, and so Zarya ends up deciding to rejoin the team after finding out that her family was slaughtered, and there's also this scene where I guess like nature creates some this herbal tea where it helps Zarya go on a vision quest, and she meets her ancestor, who's actually played by Macy Richardson Sellers' real life mother, and she's able to regain control of her animal totem, in which she's able to defeat Kawasa while she's battling the legends. And for some reason, Ray doesn't even freaking recognize her, even though he mentioned that he fought a water meta a couple years back. And Kawasa gives this line saying that, I would kill you, but then I'd just be killing myself. And then she has a stone, which allows her to, teleport away. And it just feels like it's a little frustrating they're just going to go with the same, reverse Flash crap, where it's somebody on the team should recognize a villain from a previous show, and they don't, and it becomes this huge mystery throughout the season. But we did get some, I guess, the biggest comic relief is from, because Nate took too much of the herbal tea, that he ends up becoming super hot, becoming really high, and just, thinking he's flying the ship as, that's not even moving, and I was just, laughing my ass off by just some of the stuff he was saying and doing. But I don't know. It maybe not in a way. It's very over the top, but in a sense that I don't know. It may not be the strongest episode, just because I feel like we didn't get much backstory, or or Zara didn't leave as much of an impression as I would have thought she would have. But it does end but the show does end on a cliffhanger where it goes back to Ivy Town of 1988, where it has Ray Palmer being chased by bullies. He goes into this sewage system, which is kind of reminiscent of almost of it, and he sees like an alien there and introduces himself, which I guess in the preview for next week you find out is a Dominator baby who basically gets Ray killed in the past, and so they have to go back and save him to prevent him from being erased from existence. So season 6, episode 3 of Arrow, Next of Kin. We have at the end of last week we have John Diggle, who took up the mantle of the Green Arrow because Oliver wanted to step down and spend more time with his son. And the biggest storylines that Oliver has to deal with is so far. One is he has trying to William has to worry about a math test, and he's trying to be encouraging and tell him not to worry too much about it, but it just seems like he's getting William more stressed, so he has to ask Felicity to tutor him, which is fine. But I think the bigger storyline is when he has to worry about, as mayor, the city council wants to pass an anti-vigilante bill, and Quentin and Oliver going back and forth about how to prevent it from being passed and hindering Team Arrow's efforts. And another thing that's a problem is that even though the tremors aren't necessarily brought to the forefront in terms of like John being the Green Arrow, it's the fact that they're chasing after these rogue CIA agents led by a villain named Onyx, who's trying to steal nerve gas, and I guess trying to go after other rogue agents and basically cover their tracks from the fact that they stole like hundreds of $1,000,000 in gold from a CIA operation. And there's a situation where it's like they take the nerve gas and to put it in a van, and there's also then Onyx is escaping out of a truck that is about to crash into this apartment building, and Diggle freezes up and doesn't know what kind of command to give, and then the rest of the team tries to go after the truck, but it explodes, and there are people who are injured but not killed. And Wild Dog loses so much faith in Diggle as a leader that he goes to Oliver trying to say that he doesn't know what he's doing. He needs to come back. And Oliver comes down and gives Diggle a prep talk saying that you can be a better hero than I could ever be. He's like, I never would have become the Green Arrow without you. I still would have been the Hood, just focusing on crossing people off of my list. And how he still struggled to make the hard decisions, and it was never really easy for him. And then it leads to a situation where Onyx and her group are trying to go after another CIA operative who did take money, but basically he said he wasn't going to say anything, but Onyx just wants to still cover her tracks, so she sets off nerve gas in a hotel to try to stop Team Arrow from coming after her. But then and she has these flash grenades or flash bombs, for lack of better terms, that originally just kind of blinded them and caught them off guard, but Curtis is able to put together some glasses to help them shield their eyes from the flash. And then Diggle Team Arrow is able to get the gas dispersed out of the hotel and keep anybody from dying, and Diggle is out to fight with Onyx, which leads to this really well shot action sequence in which like there's a camera like inside the limo, it's like moving around, and like you don't see what you see, like the glass is getting cracked, and knives are going through the top of the roof, like it's through like a whole like limo point of view before he like goes outside, and you see John eventually overpower her, and I think Mr. Terrific and Felicity decide to, because it's drawing attention of the fact that the new Green Arrow has not been shooting arrows, they decide to give Diggle a crossbow that he's able to compensate, and Dinah asks if they put something in it to, I guess he's like, I guess he's not showing signs that he's able to still aim and hit the tennis balls, and his tremors aren't, showing up, and it gives everybody else a new restored confidence in Diggle again. But then you find out that he's basically been buying like an illegal drug to inject himself with to deal with the tremors, and Oliver, his way of dealing with the whole anti-vigilante bill is I guess using some kind of law, like a rough law, which allows him to have the city itself, the citizens vote on it rather than just the city council, in hopes that the bill gets overturned. And it continues to raise the suspicions of Agent Watson, who apparently has this whole board, like knowing about Oliver's known associates, and it's almost similar to like a string theory, I guess, like a string board, for lack of better terms. Like kind of how like Prometheus had in season 5, and I kind of wonder like what's her beef with Oliver. Like she has some kind of personal stake in it to devote so much of her time to it, because it's like, if it was if she had a partner who was like investigating like vigilantes in Star City, I would understand that, but like it's just a lone operation she's doing, so she's got to have some kind of personal stake in this for why she wants to go after Oliver. So it'll be interesting to see what that's about. It was probably because like somebody close to her got killed in like either by the hood or in the crossfire of, I don't know, I guess like maybe Genesis. I don't know, maybe like Genesis Day, or maybe in that whole uprising at the end of the season 4 finale, or the uprising in the middle of season 3. I don't know. It'll just be interesting to see like what her personal motivations are, and just try to figure out what her stake in all of this is. But anyway, guys, what do you think of all the shows this past week? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.